Today, we are having Katie Griffith, founder and principal at Bright Solutions, a technology consulting firm working exclusively in the senior living industry. Katie has been working in the senior living industry for 20 years and founded Bright Solutions 7 years ago when she saw a need for communities to have an unbiased third party to help them identify the right technology solutions for their organization and create an adoption strategy that produces better results. Katie, could you tell us a bit more about your background and how Bright Solutions came about?
Thank you, Cedric. Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you said, I'm Katie Griffith. I'm so excited to be here with you today. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward to our conversation. So I have a degree in management information systems that I received from the University of Georgia. And then I started my career, as you mentioned, 20 years ago, with a point of sale software company. And I started there because they hired me because they were going to enter a new market for them, which was senior living and healthcare. So I was there from the beginning with them doing implementations, customer service, account management. So I was out in senior living communities doing these implementations and so forth. So I stayed there for a very long time, had held many different positions there, and was also moving into sales. So I spent a lot of time in software sales there. And then I moved on to another company that's a mobile device management solution, and was in sales there as well. And so as a salesperson, I was noticing that my prospects were relying a little too much on me to help them figure out what they needed, and how to kind of utilize the technologies. And of course I was a little biased being the salesperson, but I just really saw a need, as you mentioned, for senior living communities. They're busy all day just in their operations and taking care of their residents and their staff. So they can't really keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on with the different opportunities and vendors out there, and technology solutions. So they might go to a trade show or something and see some different things, but I just saw a need for them to have an unbiased third party really help them navigate what their options are when they're ready to invest in technology, and also have the right strategy for actually utilizing these great technologies in their operations. So that's how we started, and we just we love working in this industry. We are exclusively working in senior living. So
Hey, well, thank you for the great introduction, and welcome to the Hospitality Summit. So it sounds like you're a real expert in this subject. So let's start maybe with the first question, because you were talking about implementing technology in the senior living industry. But so how do you decide where to invest your technology in, and where to define or pinpoint the initiatives and business practices that can benefit from implementing a technology?
Great question. So where to invest in technology? I always say, if anyone knows me, they know that they've probably heard me say this: technology is not a strategy. So where you want to start is, what are our goals and initiatives as an organization? What are some things that we're trying to achieve? And then, and just thinking about operationally, what are we looking to move the needle and really progress as an organization? And then you can start to think about, well, what are some strategies to achieve these goals and initiatives? So, how are we going to get there? What are some best practices that we might want to adopt in our organization in order to achieve these goals that we've set out for ourselves? So once you've done that, then that's when you start saying, okay, what technologies can help support these strategies that we have, and these goals that we want to achieve? What's going to get us there more quickly? So a great example would be maybe your goal is to achieve some operational efficiencies in your organization. And maybe one of the strategies you came up with was to be more efficient in the way that we communicate with our residents. And so then at that point is when you might say, we need to invest in a resident engagement platform to really streamline those communications. So you've got to get it in the right order. It's not just, hey, let's be innovative and buy some technology because, that's what people do. Start with your initiatives and then what technologies can support us to get there.
Okay, thank you. That's an interesting answer indeed. So basically it all starts with defining a technology strategy. And then the next step, I suppose, is to identify or find the right partner. And how do you approach this challenge?
Good question. That's right. So now that you've decided to invest in a particular technology or solution, it's time to find the right partner. So, this is kind of like a matchmaking exercise. It's not always one size fits all. So again, since you've already defined what you're trying to achieve, that's a really good start. But you don't want to just start seeing demos. That's can be a bit of a trap because you start getting excited about all these different, bells and whistles and innovations, and that's great. But before you do that, I really want you to sit down and think about what your requirements are in your organization and be really specific on the different features and functions that you need, and kind of weight those as well. So you can really kind of set your priorities so that then when you go and start to see those demos, you're going to keep yourself honest about what you said is important to you. And that's cool if you want to adopt some of those neat, features that you didn't even know about, which is awesome. But you want to make sure that at the core, you're selecting someone that can really meet your requirements for your specific organization and what you're trying to achieve. And I want to say a little bit about the traditional RFP process. So I'm all for it. That's great. But my philosophy is to really think about not spending too much time on this big, long RFP that's pages and pages that everyone, yourself, including, and the vendors spend a tremendous amount of time on. When what I've seen is at the end of the day, most of the vendors that you're sending that RFP to can probably check off yes on almost all of those requirements that you've listed. And the important answer isn't, is it yes or no? The real question is how. So how do they meet these requirements? And that's what you want to spend more of your time doing, is really understanding how they achieve that. And asking the question, show me. So show me how that works. So show me how you're going to meet that requirement. And a great example would be with like a point of sale solution. So maybe one of your requirements is, you need to be able to support our declining dollar meal plan. Awesome. There's tons of solutions out there that can check yes on that box. But the how is going to be critical in this scenario, because the ease of use for that wait staff person or the cafe staff to be able to ring up that transaction is critical. And that's where billing issues come into play. So you want to see how exactly are you going to accommodate this meal plan? What does it look like for the staff to ring it up? I mean, do they have to be making decisions and deciding? They really should just have to ring up, identify the resident and ring up the items they have, and the system should figure the rest out based on the rules and things that are configured in there. So that's just a great example of, oh yeah, we can do that for you. And we want to know the how. So going through that criteria and finding the right vendor, that matches, that lines up with the criteria that you have, and making sure that the way that they're doing it is going to be right for you is really important. And you want to validate that too through reference conversations, maybe some site visits, and then just some deeper dive demos with the vendor to say, let me see behind the scenes exactly how that works. And I do want to say one more point is choose vendors that are in senior living. They have to have a deep knowledge. And of course, it kind of varies depending on the solution you're evaluating, but they have to have a deep knowledge of our industry and our operations. They can kind of try to fake it till they make it, but you can end up with some gotchas later on down the road that just don't work well for you.
I hear you, and that's a good point. So, as you know, Kiwigo as well, we're positioned in the market as specifically focusing on the senior living industry, and we do see a lot of benefits that originate from that approach. So, thank you for your answer. But so, if I understand it correctly, it all starts with defining your technology strategy. The next step is trying to find the right partner based on the requirements, but not only focusing on yes or no, but really going about like deeper into the how are they going to solve it, and then also getting some more detailed demos on the key priorities for the tool selection or software selection, so to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then the next step after finding a partner, I think. And also one of the biggest challenges right now, because the industry is continuously evolving, is successfully adopting and implementing a new software or technology. Any thoughts on that?
Cedric, I have so many thoughts on that, but I'll try to keep it succinct so that, that's my soapbox. I love it. This is what I'm helping my clients with all the time, and it's so much fun to do. But adoption strategy. So you've selected a solution, you've partnered with a vendor. The vendor's job is to work with you on, how do you want this solution configured? Let us set this up for you the way that you need it for your operations. And then we're going to train you on how to utilize this solution. That's awesome. And that's the vendor's job. The community's job, which they often skip, is to be in the driver's seat and to, before the vendor is coming in and doing the configuration and training, leadership needs to identify feature set by feature set. How do we envision our communities utilizing this platform? How do we envision them using these different features that we have available to us through this tool? They have a deep knowledge of their operations and what's being done today. And they have a vision of what this will look like with this new tool that they'll be utilizing. And so they have to be in the driver's seat and lead this planning of how to adopt and integrate this solution into their specific operations. And let me tell you, and I've seen this time and again when we've done this, is the staff and your team members at the communities are so thrilled when you show up with an adoption strategy that's custom to their world and their operations, instead of what they might be used to, which is, guess what, guys, we've invested in a new tool for you. It's going to make your life so much better. The vendor will be calling you, in the next couple weeks to talk to you about how to configure it and then train you how to use it. So great job, go for it. You're going to do great. So that leaves a lot of ambiguity. And it doesn't mean that we don't want them to have some autonomy, because, we can plan all day at the leadership level, but then there's the reality. And that's another thing you want to do during that adoption planning, is have some voices from the different departments and from the different communities to work with leadership on this adoption strategy. But being able to show up before the vendor gets there and talking to the associates about here's the old way versus the new way. Here's the benefit that this is going to bring you in your daily operations and your daily life. And here's how, we're going to integrate these tools into your operations. And so they are so appreciative. And then by the time the vendor shows up, they're ready to go. They know how to answer all your questions that you're going to ask them. They know how it needs to be configured, and they're ready to be trained and start using it. And a really good, just to give one example, like I know that Cubigo has this great chat feature in your resident engagement platform. So staff members can chat with one another or chat with residents and so forth. So the leadership before this is implemented should sit down and say, okay, well, what are we doing today? How are we communicating with each other or staff with residents and so forth? And then identifying, how do we envision our staff utilizing this chat feature, and setting kind of the standards and even some policies. If there's certain policies that you want to put into place, those need to be defined and communicated, right? And then maybe just some recommendations of, hey, we think that these are some really good use cases for this chat feature that we hope that you'll adopt. And please share with us some other ideas that you have there at the community. So really just defining that, setting some standards and policies and recommendations so that they can really leverage the platform to its full extent as well, and not just kind of bumping along doing the basics and then it kind of collects dust in the corner because no one has time to figure out, all the cool things that it can do.
Okay, that's indeed true. It's like preparing and setting up for successful adoption, if I understand you correctly. Yeah, and then let's take maybe a POS implementation as an example. Do you see any pitfalls or best practices that you can share maybe with the people listening or viewing this hospitality summit?
Sure. Well, I think one of the things with point of sale would be mobile ordering, for example. So allowing the residents to be able to place orders or even reservations on a mobile device. So, we can't just kind of configure it, train our staff. We need to have a launch with our residents, right? And maybe even family members on how to utilize it. And so you want to identify some resident champions to get on board as early adopters. And you really want to nurture that relationship with the resident champion, because then they're going to be able to go out and really help drive adoption with the residents. And you want to have a plan for launching the initiative, for training sessions, and just a myriad of opportunities for residents to get engaged and to learn how to use these mobile solutions. And so obviously you're not going to get 100% of your residents to use it, and that's okay, but you can move the needle on more and more residents adopting these technologies. And you'll be surprised at how many of them are willing to learn and excited to learn. But you have to have a strategy. You can't just set it up and kind of put a flyer out there saying, hey, did you know now you can do this on your device? You really have to be intentional and make it fun and engaging, and have a myriad of different ways that you're introducing this to your residents and their family members. And so you're really going to get some traction that way.
Totally agree. And indeed, I think it's important for a software to create value for not only staff, but also for residents and for even family members. And so as you were just explaining to us, more and more residents are having personal devices or having access to mobile devices, tablets, and so forth. So being an expert, in the industry allows you maybe to identify new upcoming trends and or innovations. Can you maybe give us your view on the future of hospitality services, specifically in the senior living industry?
Yes, absolutely. It's exciting. It's like, how far in the future do we want to look? So I think that having personalized experiences for the residents. So, um, you know, having digital access to their world and all the different experiences and services that they're able to interact with. So they're really going to more and more, the residents moving in today are really going to expect to be able to just have this world at their fingertips on their device. So, you know, almost every resident moving in today is going to have a personal device, whether it's an iPad, laptop, smartphone. So, today you can already have this like one-stop shop of where they can go in and see, the activities calendar and order something for dinner, place a reservation, view their bill and their account balances and so forth. So we're just going to continue to expand that. And it's going to expand beyond the services provided by the community and the senior living community out into the greater community around them, right? So whether it's, Uber or Lyft and other services and opportunities around their community. And one thing I want to talk about that I don't know that people are thinking this way just yet because it's early. But when you think about autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars, I mean, this is 100% coming. It's here to some degree, but I mean, just pure, I don't even have to drive. I just get in the car and it takes me where I'm going. This is going to create autonomous residents. So this is going to remove so many limits for them so that they can be a part of their outside community. And I think this is going to spur innovations around like community hubs, like intergenerational community centers, if you will. So, whether it's co-working spaces that also has, I mean, even today in our community where I live, there's this new place that it is a hub for people to co-work, but it's also there's a lot of children's activities too. So your children can go and take yoga classes, and they even have like a Roblox day where a bunch of kids are in a room together playing Roblox while the parents are taking a yoga class or working, from there. And then they have an immersive room where they have events for adults, but also for children, for like, I mean, it's almost like virtual reality without the goggles. And so you're able to like go travel to different parts of the world and have this immersive experience. And I just see that continuing to grow and expanding that to the baby boomers, eventually. And so if they have autonomous vehicles, they can get places, they can go out and they can experience and be engaged and experience these different things. And we know that whenever there's opportunity, especially in America, we find ways to really engage in those opportunities, and we develop new opportunities, new services, and new experiences that I think we're really going to be embracing the baby boomers, because why wouldn't we? There's such a huge population. And so if they're able to go out and really engage with these services that we're offering, that's just a whole new world. And so the senior living community is going to be supporting that and enabling their residents to have this beautiful life inside their doors and also outside of their doors, and giving them access to all of these amazing opportunities. And then I won't even touch on the metaverse, but when they're at your community, let me tell you, they're going to be doing that kind of stuff too in the future. Because if you knew how many baby boomers are already on YouTube and Facebook, I mean, we know that that's huge. I mean, that's one of the most popular training sessions with Can Do Tech has, training for seniors in technology, which is awesome. And those are some of their most popular classes, is the YouTube and the Facebook classes. So, they're going to be on the metaverse, sitting at home and doing whatever great things they want to do. So
the future is here. Exciting times ahead for the whole industry, I'd say. Hey, Katie, thank you so much for your time today and sharing all your insights on the hospitality services in the senior industry. And I would say, enjoy the rest of your day.
thank you so much, Cedric.